Hey guys, this is Jay here in my front yard. The purpose of this video is to take you through the phases of a flight. Now, the reason it's important for us to think about phases of a flight is every phase in the flight has some very specific things that you need to be focused on and deliberate about to make sure that we're safe and successful all the way throughout the flight. The phases we're going to talk about are listed in your manual, and they start with pre-flight operations and pre-flight reflection, aircraft activation, takeoff and flight preparation, travel to flight area and setup for shot, flight, resetting aircraft position, returning to landing area and landing, and aircraft deactivation and post-flight. All right, so let's get started. All right, so in pre-flight operations, the things that you need to do are just to make sure that before you do anything, remember the aircraft isn't safe until it's deactivated. So the minute you activate that aircraft, you have to assume that that aircraft is dangerous. So in pre-flight operations, we're going to double check that everything is okay. Things like that the aircraft is still okay, everything's on place in the ground, flight team is ready, any distractions that might be there minimized, and the controller and the tablet, everything's working properly, okay? So we've taken an opportunity to do that. I'm looking around, I'm not seeing anything in my flight area that's a problem. So that's good, we can move on to the next thing. The next thing is called pre-flight reflection, and this is an internal process that you're gonna go through to make sure that you are ready for this flight. And that's critical, because if we don't stop and do this, there's a chance we can just run willy-nilly into each of these flights, and one of those times can make a big difference in terms of safety and things like that. So we want to make sure that we're mentally prepared for this. So this is things like double checking the condition and the things on the ground and in the sky. Checking your emotional state. Are you frustrated? Are you rushed? Did you just have a horrible last flight and you're resetting for this next one? And you've got to get your mind right on this. Any troubled emotions, you got to put them aside. The sterile cockpit, this isn't important. You got to make sure all your distractions are taken away. And then you need to think through what the flight is. So what we're going to do, the flight we're going to do is with that tree over there. We're going to fly over, we're going to do a pan across it. We'll probably take a couple of shots of that. Well, I'm going to want to walk through the steps on that in my mind before I get started on it. Okay, there's a plane flying over. That's a distraction. Maybe I want to take a minute to wait till that plane goes over. All right, the next one is aircraft operation. Remember, the aircraft isn't safe until it's turned off. So as long as that aircraft is on, we're gonna need to consider that to be dangerous. Now, I'm noticing as I'm recording, I've got a couple people walking up here, so we're gonna have to pay attention to our ground area. You can see that behind you. We're going to want to pay attention to our ground area as we're taking off and make sure we're not flying over them or putting them in danger, or that they're not a distraction. They're neighbors, so they might stop and say hi. We got to make sure we're okay on that. So aircraft activation, we're going to confirm that the aircraft is in safe operating condition. We just did that in the last video. We're going to secure the area. We're going to communicate with the flight team. We're going to activate the aircraft. We're going to confirm a proper connection. We're going to review and address any system alerts, and then we're going to double check any settings that we need to check. Okay, so I'm going to go turn the aircraft on. Okay, so the aircraft is on. I kind of faked that a little bit because it was actually on already, that I need it to make sure the screen keeps casting. But the aircraft is on, everything's good. The neighbors are walking out of our flight area, thank you. Okay, and let's move to the takeoff and flight preparation. All right, so again, now we're moving into the aircraft is on, everything we've confirmed it's all working, the screen's on, the connection's good. So we're ready to take the aircraft off. So at this point, we're gonna communicate with the flight team. And there's a whole section in the book on how to do it, but this is where we want to make sure that we're all clear. So I'm going to say to my visual observer, are we clear for takeoff? Visual observer is going to say clear. I'm going to say taking off, and the visual observer is going to say okay. That's important, and we'll go through that in another video. Okay, so then I engage the propellers, bring the aircraft to a close, safe hover, scan the area, make sure that everything above and below it is okay, and then think about what my next, which is going to be the flight path to the flight area. All right, so let's start her up. Put her in safe hover. Now, safe hover is an important concept because it's not technically safe, but if I need time to do other things, I need it to be in one place, in a place where I know it's safe. So there's nothing around it. It's relatively low. I'm going to keep it in safe hover while I do the next steps. It's not really safe. Want to stress that. It's still operating and flying. But if I need to look away for a second, I'd rather it be in a hovering and stay stable in a place where I know it's not going to cause any problems. All right, so now we need to think about traveling to the flight area and setting up for the shot. This is important because a lot of times the things we're going to be focusing on is how to capture the flight, how to capture the shot itself that we're going to be using for the video. Problem is, if we're thinking about that, we're not thinking about what we're doing in the moment, and we could cause a lot of damage between here and that flight area over there. So I need to think that through, and then I need to safely take my drone over there and put it into safe hover there. So I'm going to take it up a little higher to get it above things. It's dangerous to take something straight over. For us, I think it's better if we get it up to a safe area, a safe altitude, and then fly it over. So I'm going to move it over a little bit to make that tree not a factor anymore. Let's turn it this way. And I'm going to bring it up to my basically my flight altitude, and I'm going to fly it over to the starting position for my shot. Now, you can do all kinds of fancy all kinds of fancy maneuvers on here. I'm going to ask that you kind of stick to like one direction at a time. If you try to do a whole bunch of different directions, you're going to get, confusing. You're going to get better at joystick control and you're going to know what your limits are, but I would say either up, down, sideways, spin, but don't try to do all of them at one time. That gets a little confusing. All right, so now we're setting up for the shot. So I'm going to fly it over a little bit. It's in the shot. I'm going to move it a little bit, and remember the shot is a pan across that tree over there. So I think it's set up for the shot. For the purposes of today, we can do a lot more intricate or whatever. But I'm kind of, let's gimbal down a little bit so I can see the tree. All right, so now you're seeing the tree. Maybe I'll bring it down a little bit. I don't want to do too much because I purposely put it over there so that we didn't, I would normally be closer if I was doing something this close to the tree. Let's back it up a little bit. All right, so let's say that's the starting point for my shot. All right, so the next part is the flight. I'm going to want to make sure we're doing all the things during the flight that we have to do, right? We're going to be monitoring the airspace. I'm going to come around to the other side here so that I can watch things and watch the thing at the drone at the same time, and so can you. All right, so we're going to be communicating with the team. We're going to be remaining cognizant of the controller and its communication with the aircraft, any alarms that come up, any battery levels, the return to home, consider how obstacle avoidance, all those things that we have to make sure we're going to be cognizant of all of that while flying the shot. But let's say, okay, so I've got the shot lined up. We're now going to take it through the flight. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to do it as a video. Let's hit record. Okay, so we're recording now, I think. Okay, now we're recording. All right. And I'm going to do a nice little pan shot where we can see that tree. Okay, and let's say that's the shot. So I'm going to hit stop record. Okay, so I've just flown the shot. Now, let's say it didn't go right. I didn't like it. I'm going to want to get a few more takes of this. The trick is we're going to want to just go right back to the starting position, especially if we've had like 100 takes and none of them went well. Well, that's one of the most dangerous points on the flight because you're going to want to just whip it back and not pay attention to all the fundamentals that you need to do to get a safe flight. So at this point, the flight is done. we want to bring it back to the starting location, we're going to want to be just as deliberate resetting it. So I'm going to be looking around at all the things. I'm going to be double checking. I'm going to think through the flight, and then I'm going to move it safely back to the starting position. That was a little fast. Okay, and let's say that's the starting position. And then we'll fly it through again. So I'm hitting record. And I'm flying through the shot. Get a little rotation going there. Okay, so let's say now we've got the shot that we like. I stop the video, and we're done with all the shots we need to capture. So the thing is, now we need to bring it back. All right, so when I bring it back, again, returning to the landing position is still a flight. And especially if you're frustrated, you need to put all that aside and get that thing back. Now, we're gonna return it basically about the same way. I could fly it straight in, but there's a whole bunch of things that can go wrong doing that. So what I'd rather do is maybe let's bring it up a little bit, rotate it. Let's get it up above all the obstacles that are in our way, and let's fly it over. Oh, bird. Let's fly it over. Okay, so now I'm over the landing area, give or take. Now I can start bringing it down because I can control all the space here, right? So let's bring it down. Again, I'm going to establish safe hover for a minute just to double check that everything is okay. And then I'm going to bring it over to the landing pad. Let's scoot it over just a little bit, move a little bit forward. Let's see if I can nail this. Over a little bit. Move it forward. And I bring it down right on the pad. But you can see that I didn't just swoop it in. I brought it over in safe airspace, and then I lowered it into this close-in airspace where I can control it better. Okay. So now it's on the landing pad. The last thing is we need to deactivate it and double check it for the next flight. And this is going to be pretty obvious. I'm going to walk over and turn it off, and that's when it's going to be safe. So let me do that. All right, and the aircraft is off, and now we can consider all of this to be safe. So now you've seen why we need to go through phase by phase on each of these. In every flight, we need to be thinking of it in phases and all the things that have to happen in that phase to make sure that that flight is safe. If we lose focus for any one of those pieces, all of a sudden we're jeopardizing the safety and success. And you're going to see that happen out there. You're going to see yourself get into a situation where maybe you weren't focused, or you were thinking about something else, or you did something a little haphazardly or rushed. All of those things are things that we need to deliberately control in every moment while that aircraft is activated to make sure that we're safe and successful. So, again, as I've been saying in all the other videos, this wasn't necessarily a demonstration of what's perfect. It's more kind of a walkthrough. Hopefully, as you guys practice this, you'll get an opportunity to see even more and more so we can do this better and better the next times. Thank you.